use your powers for evil.
Your evil is mine.
Welcome once again to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Happy 2018 here as we're having once again more problems with Skype, but we're on Zencastr, so hopefully this will work out better. I'm Charles Skaggs, and with me the TARDIS, my partner in crime and my partner in time, back for another year, everybody's favorite, Jesse Jackson.
Hello, Charles. Happy New Year to you and the lovely Lori, and Happy New Year to all our listeners. It is 2018, a very exciting year, though we have till September to wait for new Who episodes, don't we?
Yes, we do. So, hopefully it'll, it's going to be a long wait, but we'll get you through it. And one of the ways we are going to get you through it, as we talked about at the end of last year's episode, we're going to talk about the first of 4 Chris Chibnall stories. Now, Chris Chibnall, as most of you hopefully know by now, is the new incoming Doctor Who showrunner, replacing Stephen Moffat, who's going to be taking over for Series 11 with Jodie Whittaker. So I thought it would be a good idea at this point to have since we are going to have a new year, new Doctor, new showrunner, that why don't we go back to the episodes that Chris Chibnall wrote for under Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat to kind of get a feel for the kind of stories he likes. And even though they're under different showrunners, but I wanted to get a feel kind of for his mindset a little. And I'm looking forward to talking about these with you, Jesse.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this is a great idea. We're doing pre-course work. This is the required reading before you start the new course. So I think this is a great idea. I had not even realized he had written for the show. Just ignorance on my part. So I'm excited about it. And we'll kind of get, at least a feeling on how he views the Doctor and how he views Doctor Who storytelling. So great plan, and besides, we got 9 months to fill. So
exactly. Well, like I keep saying, we've had 54 years of Doctor Who, so I think we'll figure out a way to get through. So lots to talk about. First of the stories that we're going to talk about is 42. Yes, the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything, if you're a Douglas Adams fan, as I am.
So if you are a listener, yes, if you had Charles within the first 5 minutes of making the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe joke,
Galaxy, thank you very much.
Because I was very much trying to figure out how to put that in. So you barely beat me. You barely beat me because I was going to make that same comment. So
I am a bit of a Douglas Adams geek. So it was going to happen sooner or later. But interesting enough, since you brought it up, this title, it works on several levels because you obviously have the Douglas Adams reference. It's also because this episode is set in real time.
And 42 minutes is roughly the normal length of a Doctor Who episode. In fact, most episodes on episodic TV runs about that time. So I thought that was a very good point. Also reminded me a little bit of
24.
Yes. And the Gary Cooper show where why am I drawing a blank on where it's the Western with Grace Kelly and they're counting down till noon, and I'm drawing a blank on the movie. So
High Noon.
Yes, thank you. So so that is the countdown. So so I immediately I remember when I watched this series, this show, I love the title. I love the simplicity of it.
Right. And like I said, it at the time, this is the TV show 24. I brought 24 up because that is also a show set in real time. And of course, what happens when you flip the numbers of 24? What do you get? 42. So,
ooh, nicely done, sir.
So yeah, I have to think that was deliberate. And like I said, it works on several levels. Graham Harper, who directed a lot of good stories in classic and modern Who, including The Caves of Androzani, which we talked about, one of my personal favorites, Army of Ghosts / Doomsday, and The Stolen Earth, Journey's End, a particular favorite of Jesse's as well, and mine. It's a great story. So great director.
All right. So, hey, Charles, do you have your patented thoughts on the episode?
All right. This is episode 7, I believe, of series 3 from 2007. So we're going back 11 years now, almost. Starring David Tennant as the 10th Doctor, of course, Freema Agyeman as Martha Jones. So glad to be talking about Martha Jones episodes. Now we do have a couple of notable cast members in this story. We have Adjoa Endo, who plays Francine Jones, Martha's mother. Now has some other background with Doctor Who. She played Sister Jat in the episode New Earth. That was also a David Tennant era story. One of the cat nuns. And she played the Rachnos Empress in a Big Finish audio starring the 5th Doctor, Peter Davison, called Empire the Rachnos, which just came out last year and is actually pretty good. So it's kind of funny to hear her, Martha's mom, as Arachnos. And she also played Nurse Albertine in another Big Finish audio for Colin Baker's Doctor, the 6th Doctor, called Year of the Pig. So she's been quite invested in Doctor Who, which I think is kind of awesome. We have Vinette Robinson, who played Abby Lerner. She's notable because she played Sergeant Sally Donovan on Sherlock, and this was the black DCI detective that was always giving Sherlock crap. She worked under for the London Metropolitan Police, so she was always very distrusting of Sherlock. Well, that's her from this story. She played Cynthia Quince also in another Big Finish audio called Dead to the World, which was a Sylvester McCoy story. So, and then we had Michelle Collins really quickly as Captain Kath McDonnell. She played Winnie Tyler in another Big Finish audio, lots of Big Finish connections here, called Damaged Goods, which was written by Russell T. Davies.
Nice.
Well, the original novel was based on Russell T. Davies' story that he wrote, but then it was adapted for Big Finish, I should say. So we got some notable Doctor Who connections here. So thanks for being patient as I ran those down.
No, we always enjoy hearing that, especially the connections. I thought this was a pretty good cast.
Yeah, it was. It's a very kind of a simple story. The Doctor and Martha end up on a ship, and which just happens to be plunging into a star, and they get involved with the crew, and there just so happens apparently some kind of solar space monsters are taking over bodies, infesting their bodies, and kind of becoming like solar zombies of a sort. And of course, that's what amps up the threat level, along with the countdown that we have of 42 minutes. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good. It's a solid story. I don't think it's a especially fantastic story, but I think that it's a solid Doctor Who tale.
Well, so here is what I find, and hopefully I don't step over your categories, but what obviously I'm biased because this is my favorite Doctor and my favorite companion.
Right.
So I'm going in there, already ready to love rewatching this.
Okay. Well,
But the other thing I liked about, go ahead, let's go to the categories and then I'll kind of summarize this at the end. I don't want to step on your stuff.
Yeah, I didn't want to step all over you. So
yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
We're just kind of funny that way. You think
Yes.
you think after all this time we'd have this down better by now.
All right.
So well, give us a break. It was the holidays. We're getting back in the swing of things, I guess.
Well, what is it? This is a common line in a movie. Like, I'd like to tell you, if you're a new listener, this isn't the way it's normally going to go. But the reality is, nope, this is how Charles and I roll.
That's okay. As long as everybody out there is cool with it, we're cool with it too. All right. So first topic I want to talk about. Here comes the sun. Do, 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 do. Here comes the sun. And, of course, this is the Doctor who kind of made that reference in this story as he's responding to Martha, who's asking him a trivia question about who had the most number ones pre-download, the Beatles or Elvis. So that kind of inspired me to do some Beatles segment titles here. So, and Here Comes the Sun, obviously, was a great reference the 10th Doctor made in this story. So I want to talk about the Doctor here and the overall threat that of this episode of the Doctor trying to save this ship from falling into a star.
That is a perfect setup to what I wanted to talk about. So thank you, Charles. What I loved about this episode, and I'm hoping that Chris Chibnall follows through on this, he did not overcomplicate this story. He put the Doctor and Martha in danger. They had a challenge to meet. They separated them. They each had their own kind of own dangers. They worked through a solution. They saved the day. I love timey-wimey and I love elaborate storytelling, but sometimes it's just nice to see a straightforward story. The Doctor companion and the, people they're visiting with are in danger. They figure out a way to save it. There's a nice little twist at the end. This was, I just like that. And so I thought it was go ahead.
It was like simple comfort. It was comfort food.
Yes.
In a way.
But it's kind of, every once in a while you'll go to a restaurant and they'll specialize in Southern, comfort food or, they'll Southern dishes, but with a twist, just a little bit. And so I think this was not a color by numbers, painting by numbers episode, but I do think there was a straightforwardness that made it very enjoyable.
I totally agree. Now keep in mind though, this is under Russell T Davies,
right?
So, Chibnall's script is kind of geared more toward to Davies as showrunner,
absolutely,
telling the kind of stories that Davies wants to tell. But yeah, it's a very in the format of the story, because it's real time. It essentially lets this story play out. There's no timey-wimey stuff where we're like, okay, there's a flashback right in the middle of the story, or something that you're kind of puzzled about at the beginning gets explained later on. It's very straightforward, just like, okay, we've got a problem we've got to solve, and oh hey, it gets complicated by these solar zombies, if you will.
Yes. Which were a cool monster.
Right. You like them as a monster?
I did. I thought they were really good. I thought I
would have liked a little bit more background about what that thing was, because they didn't even give it a name. It's just
right.
Oh, hey, it was just something in that star that takes possession of people.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of upset that because of what the ship the SS Pentalion was
Yeah.
they basically raided it for fuel and just wanted that
Yes.
fuel back.
Right. And the answer was return to sender.
Right.
To throw an Elvis cube in
Oh,
there,
very
right?
well played. Well played.
Thank you, sir.
Well played.
So it was good to see. Now, I laughed at when they first land in the ship and it's hot. Martha takes off her jacket and ties her sweater, ties around her
Right.
waist. The doctor continues to be in the coat the whole time, and I just would have. I felt like, okay, take your coat off, roll up your sleeves, doctor. It's warm in there, but no. I guess his alien biology allowed him to be more comfortable, which does come into play
he's so skinny,
later.
he probably doesn't have any body fat, so he probably gets cold really easily. That's why he wears the big coat, right?
He is a skinny doctor.
Now, you notice like Peter Davison's doctor during Planet of Fire, he took off his coat and rolled up his sleeves when they were on the volcano planet. So, you would think that the doctor would kind of adjust for the temperature, but maybe just wasn't all that, all that hot, or just he thought he'd rather, he wants to be cool, so he looks good, wearing the coat and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
now,
Charles, was he wearing the coat? I thought he was just in the suit.
He might. Well, that's what I meant. The suit coat.
I mean the suit, the jacket. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Except for them not having names, how did you feel about the monster?
I thought it was an interesting monster. I mean, it's again very simple, which is okay, and it's just they looked cool. I would have liked to have them do more than just kind of a few instances. I would have liked to have them engage the doctor more. I would have liked to have had the creature that was outside speaking more to the doctor. But apart from that, I thought they were very effective, and it helped to complicate matters, which always makes for a better Doctor Who episode.
Very nice. I agree.
Because without conflict, you don't have a great episode.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I will take topic number 2, Beatles songs for 400,
okay.
Charles.
All right. So topic number 2, Martha, my dear, Martha, my love. So this is obviously Martha Jones, one of our favorite companions, one of the underrated companions, in my opinion. So I want to get your thoughts, because Martha has a couple. Now I want to get into her relationship with her mother a little later. But
got it.
But here, she does get a little subplot of her own where she gets stuck in this escape pod. And I want to get your thoughts on Martha otherwise in this episode and in that escape pod, where she and this guy Ashton are essentially trying to survive, and they kind of have a little heart to heart.
Yeah, he got a little crush on Martha.
Yes, he did.
It was implied pretty strongly,
right?
And then even at the end, he kind of talks about that, which that just shows that he has sense, because who doesn't have a little crush on Martha?
Right. Well, apparently the doctor doesn't. But
yes. Well, and I think that's part of the reason. If we go off on just a broad tangent for a moment, we had Rose in love with the doctor, and the doctor may have had feelings for Rose, and then we wanted to show a different side of a companion where you had a one-sided,
unrequited
relationship. Yeah. And so RTD, I think, Russell T Davies wanted to show that, and I think, it's kind of like Colin Baker playing a grumpy doctor, or a slightly, that's the role he was asked to play. And so then therefore it's kind of held against him or her because of the role.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it was a kind of a bad decision on Russell T Davies' part to make this an unrequited love so soon after Rose. I think if the relationship had been more like Donna, where there wasn't any interest, then maybe fans wouldn't feel so like you had a lot of resentment toward Martha because she wasn't Rose, because Rose had left the show. So I think it would have been easier for the female fans, I think, to take if, obviously speaking as a guy, I can't really provide the greatest insight into that, but from based off of what I've seen over the years, I think that people would have been more accepting of Martha if she did have a more of an emotional detachment.
Yeah, I think well said, and we're in agreement.
Okay.
So one of the reasons I like Martha is she tends to be a little more independent. I like the fact that she's a medical doctor. I like the fact that she is a little more aggressive on her own. She goes off like, I'll go with this guy to do the puzzles to open up the locks, which I thought was a nice subplot. Well, we all got drunk and we decided this was the best way to protect the ship, and now we don't remember the answers, or the crew has changed since then. So that was interesting. I like the emotional in the pod with her and the Ashton, right? Yes. I thought that was a really nice give and take, a little, a kind of a nice character moment. And I love any time a companion.
I'm sorry, not Ashton. My mistake. It's Riley.
Riley. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, that guy.
Yeah.
Yes, it is Riley. Yes. Well, his real name is William Ash, so that's why we got confused.
Yeah, exactly.
I am always a fan of the companion having absolute faith in the doctor.
Yes.
I just if the companion is supposed to be our channel into this world, our viewpoint, as a viewer, we have utmost faith in the doctor, and I like it when the companion does. I like it when she has utmost confidence that he's going to figure a way out of this. That's what he does. He's the doctor. And so I thought she had a good role, not an outstanding, as in every once in a while they'll highlight the companion in an episode, but this was a solid, she wasn't just there making coffee or, just asking questions so that the doctor has a chance to explain. So it was good to see Martha, and we'll talk later about the 3 phone calls she made with her mom, which I think were all really well done.
What I liked about this whole subplot with Martha, I like the fact that, okay, she's unloading to Riley about the doctor a little bit, but she's not dwelling on it because Riley's unloading. And she's kind of being there for him as well. And I think that probably helps fuel his crush on her. But I kind of like the fact that she wasn't making it all about her. She was also concerned about him as well. And just that the two of them relying on each other. And as he tries to circumvent this, the computer to try to disable the escape pod. And I thought that I like their teamwork, is what I'm saying, I guess.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so let's move on to our third topic then. So this is Your Mother Should Know. Your Mother Should Know. This, of course, is Francine Jones, and this is essentially her is a subplot of a subplot where we have the running the series overall series 3 arc of the Return of the Master, but here we're kind of halfway through the season, so we don't get the full deal. But we find out that Martha has apparently been contacted by the Master, who's obviously posing as Harold Saxon, and is trying to use Martha's relationship with the doctor to feed information to the master. And I want to get your thoughts on that, and also how her basic relationship with Martha, which always appears to be contentious at best.
Yeah, I the show always has interesting scenes with moms. You know, we had Rose's mother that is not my favorite.
Yeah,
Though
Jackie
Jackie later kind of, she later
well, she's
was a
no
little
Will.
better.
Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
But who is?
And even and even Donna's mom,
Sylvia Noble, yes.
was but I liked seeing Francine. I did like the going, oh, now that I know what the Saxon,
Right.
the sinister woman, what they're up to, that was kind of nice to go, oh yeah, that's this season. So I love that Martha has a backstory. Her father has divorced her mother and now moved in, dating an incredibly younger woman. Her brother and her are not,
Right.
it's a messy family.
Well,
And,
I was just thinking that, they're kind of all over the place, this family. And that's one of the things that Russell T. Davies does,
right,
is that he shows like all this stuff with the doctor, all this nonsense, ends up bringing their family together at the end.
Yeah. And so I liked it.
At least Martha and her mother, they start getting along better. I think.
Martha does call her and say, "That's all right, Mama." And see what I did there.
Yeah, I see what you did. Yep, there's another Elvis reference.
She calls originally needing help, and her mom, immediately being a mom, what's going on? What's happening? Da 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 da. And then when she calls again in the pod, thinking that this may be the last time she talks to her mom, her mom senses that and like, what's going on? What's happening? And, I love Martha's, just talk to me. Complain about Dad. Tell me what you had for lunch. I want to hear your voice, which was really sweet. And then at the end, Martha telling her everything's okay. And her mom asked her to come over for, tea, come over for dinner.
Right.
And then, the first time we aren't sure if they're being monitored the first time. I don't think they are. It doesn't imply that they are.
No, I think at some point Martha's mom, Francine, that she ends up getting, because she has this hatred toward the doctor. She hates that the doctor has taken her daughter away. So I think at some point she's concerned about her daughter, so she reaches out to Harold Saxon.
Yes.
Who sends that woman over, this blonde woman, to kind of oversee and try to see if they can keep. I think at this point, by the third call, they're recording it.
Yeah.
And so that they can hopefully get some information about the doctor.
Yeah, and also
manipulating Martha to pump her for information, essentially.
And it looks like they were the second one, they were trying to trace the call because she kept going, stay longer, we needed more time. Yeah. So I thought that was
tracing that call.
Yes, even though the ultimate friends and family plan from the doctor, the universal no
what he called the frequent flyers privilege.
Yes,
the universal roaming. I don't know. I hate to think of how much that costs. Jeez.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was kind of interesting that Francine obviously cares about Martha, but
yes,
it's frustrating because she does have this animosity toward the doctor, and it's clouding her thinking, and it's affecting her relationship with her daughter, but she doesn't really see it that way. Francine sees it as the doctor's the problem. She's not realizing that the doctor is helping her daughter live a more fantastic life or brilliant life, take your pick. And just that animosity is what's getting between them right now.
Yes, not only is the doctor rubbish at weddings, especially his own, but he is rubbish with mothers. He does not get along with moms.
Now, the end of the episode, it kind of teases more of the Saxon story arc, where essentially, like, that blonde woman confiscates Francine's phone, puts it in a bag. Not sure why, but okay, we want to seal this for evidence, but hey, you know that I'm the one who touched it. I don't get that. Unless they want to track the connection somehow. And she asked Francine, like, okay, who did you vote for? But Francine's like, well, I'm not going to tell you who I voted for. Or she doesn't say who she voted for.
Right.
And of course, that she thanks Francine for that Mr. Saxon will be very grateful. Mwahahaha. Yeah.
Yes. And at this point, we don't know who Saxon is. We just know it's somebody running. Yeah.
So, but essentially, it's obviously that pays off later with the last of the Time Lords and all that. But for right now, it doesn't affect the overall story. It's just kind of teasing down the road.
Yeah. Did you catch the Dunkirk reference at the very beginning of the show? Which I did. Which I'm sure I caught nothing the first time I saw this.
Well, it is a historical point in British history,
right?
So, but now it's just become more like, as far as modern times, it's become more aware because of Christopher Nolan's film.
Right. And I would not, I had not heard of this till the film. And I thought that was a nice, like, oh, wow, this is, there are things that are important in Britain that we don't catch, the same way.
Well, it's probably like if, British people watching some American shows.
Absolutely.
Like when we make historical references that maybe they don't catch because they're not as familiar with our history as they are their own.
Exactly.
So, just it's kind of the same thing. Anything else about this episode before we move on?
As you were talking about, this is he was writing under Russell T Davies,
right?
Show running, but there is a often my boss makes the comment, the data is the data. This is all we have right now to make a discussion. And so one episode in on this rewatch, I'm feeling pretty good about Chris's storytelling and how he can handle the Doctor companions and guest stars. We've only got one episode to review right now. I'm looking forward to the other three, but I feel, not that I was worried before. I have faith in, this is a franchise that, you don't take this just for a job. You take this because you love the Doctor Who universe, and this is something you want to play in. So I'm excited to see what they do.
The money doesn't hurt either, but it is a big responsibility, and you have to feel like you're at least up to the task.
Absolutely.
To take on something this big and this important. So, and especially what Chibnall's doing by, casting a female doctor, and kind of he's playing with convention here. So he's obviously he has something he wants to do. So we'll just have to hope that, hey, we like it. That's all. So he has to do his part to do it, tell great stories that are worthy of our attention. And we have to reciprocate by, like, if they are worthy of our attention, we have to appreciate that. So as fans, I think, if we enjoy them. All right. Okay. So what's your favorite lines of the episode?
So I have a couple. you already mentioned one. The doctor saying, "Now where was I? Here comes the sun. No resources." I love that that he had just answered the question about the Beatles, and then he did a very appropriate Beatle. Yes.
I've got that full quote, that exchange.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So we have we have Martha who's saying, "Okay, who had the most number ones, Elvis or the Beatles?" That's pre-download. The doctor replies, "Elvis, no. The Beatles, no. Wait, there was that remix. I don't know. I am a bit busy here." And Martha says,
Yes.
"Fine, I'll ask somebody else." And the doctor replies, "Now, where was I? Here comes the sun. No resources." So yeah, he's, just that kind of trivia comes through, and as he's trying to concentrate, and he can't help himself. So I just love that whole exchange.
Yeah.
All right. Any other quotes?
Yeah, I've got Martha going, "No way. This is too mad. You're telling me I can phone anyone, anywhere in space and time on my mobile?" And he says, "As long as you know the area code."
That's a great exchange. I thought that was a great
Yes.
line. The only other line I have is from Riley.
Yes.
Who says, basically, he and Martha are in the escape pod, and he's like ruminating. He's going, "The wonderful world of space travel. The prettier it looks, the more likely it is to kill you."
Yeah, I had that one too. And then I love the doctor when they ask him about the prime number, and and he goes, "Any number that reduces to 1 when you take the sum of the square of its digits and continue itinerating until it yields 1 is a happy number. Any number that doesn't isn't. A happy prime number. A happy prime is a number that's both happy and prime." Now type it in. I don't know. Talk about dumbing down. Don't they teach recreational mathematics anymore?
That was a good line.
And I was sitting here going, I can't even follow his explanation.
Right.
But I love the idea.
Yeah. Some of that stuff, I know about iterations and I know about happy numbers.
Yeah.
But it was just the doctor tossing off these advanced mathematics concepts as if and he phrases them as recreational mathematics. I thought it was brilliant.
I did too.
Because obviously he's on a different level.
He is always. Good. Yeah. So yeah, that's that.
And with the doctor, there's always hidden figures.
So. Absolutely. Yeah. So aren't sure if we. I mean.
Well, do you first? I want to know your rating on this story.
Yes. So I gave it 8.5 keys to the TARDIS.
Okay.
Because there wasn't it's missing a great doctor speech.
Right.
2, I don't get why they should scan a sun before they scoop up hydrogen.
Right.
That seemed illogical that he would be that angry. Like we should assume a sun is sentient. I just, that didn't make any sense to me.
Right.
And so those are the only nitpicking I have. But a very enjoyable episode.
Yeah. I'm only just a little bit behind you on this one. I give it 8 stasis chambers because
he does love a stasis chamber.
I just I knocked off a little bit because apart from the few lines that we recited, there weren't that many memorable lines in this episode. Chibnall doesn't seem to be the greatest with dialogue, not the way that Russell T Davies or Stephen Moffat is at times. So that at least has me a little concerned about him, but there were some good lines, and this is a solid Doctor Who story. But again, there's no real memorable villain, and there aren't any real lasting consequences from this episode. So I think it's just a solid Doctor Who story, and that's about it.
Yeah, and in fact, I agree the same thing. No, I thought the same thing is, we love when the Doctor has a great monologue, and there was not a great monologue in this episode. So I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, I like the Doctor being a little more quippy, but obviously the circumstances, especially with the story being real time. So I'm kind of willing to overlook that a little bit because of the format of this one. But
yes,
I know that with the Doctor, he tends to kind of keep things a little lighter to keep people's minds off the seriousness of their situation. So,
yes.
So with that, reverse the polarity. So yes, so I'm going to reverse the polarity, the neutron flow, back to this week to 1982 with Earthshock, the sixth serial of season 19 in 1982, written by Eric Saward. Now we've talked about this story here on Next Up Everywhere, but just to do a quick recap, we have the TARDIS materializing on Earth in 2526, where we have the fifth Doctor, Peter Davison, and Adric, Nyssa, and Tegan exploring a series of caves, but they end up getting caught and blamed for the deaths of this archaeological team. And that ends up leading them to some bodies where there's a hatch nearby. The Doctor opens it. Oh, hey, guess what? There's a bomb inside that can destroy Earth. So they take care of the bomb and trace it back to a space freighter entering the solar system. And so they basically go to the freighter. The Doctor and Adric go exploring, find some corpses in a cargo hold, which is never good. And they get caught by security again, taken to the captain, where they, of course, try to explain things. But guess who's watching all this? Well, hey, the Cybermen, who are intent on destroying Earth, and they end up marching to the bridge. So essentially, we do have some creatures taking over a ship, a freighter, in space, just like in 42. And we have essentially the Cybermen taking power. They use Tegan to keep the Doctor in check, and they install a device that locks the controls of the freighter, setting it on warp speed collision course with Earth. So we have this freighter being on a collision course with Earth, as opposed to 42, where it's on a collision course with a star. And then we have Adric, who essentially gets left on board to try to solve these logic codes on this device to kind of free it up to hopefully change course. He gets two of them freed, but in the process sends the ship back 65 million years, and but turns out, hey, the impact won't be as severe as the Cybermen intended. So everybody else gets off the ship. Adric stays on because he's so determined to solve that final logic code and can't let it go. And the Doctor ends up smashing Adric's mathematical badge for excellence, which just happens to be gold, into the Cyber Leader's chest plate. And then the Doctor is unable to rescue Adric because the Cyber Leader disabled the controls, and Adric ends up dying, going kaboom. The freighter collides with Earth in this big, massive explosion, and we have the credits rolling in silence upon Adric's broken mathematical badge. So we have escape pods, we have a collision course, and we've got a bunch of creatures trying to take over the ship. So
very good choice.
So hopefully, if you enjoyed 42, you would like Earthshock. That's one of my favorites. I know Jesse wasn't as wild about it, but I enjoy it quite a bit. If only because Adric dies. Yay!
Very good choice.
So, but poor Adric, he gets such crap from people. So apart from that, we do have some feedback this week, but not a lot.
Very nice.
So we do have some feedback from Paul from Australia, who's obviously very loyal about writing in. So let me pull up Paul's email here.
Yes.
All right. So Paul writes in, "Hi, Charles and Jesse. This is an interesting episode of Doctor Who and a good way of evaluating Chris Chibnall's style of storytelling." Obviously, he's talking about 42. This story is one that hits the ground running and does not let up. It is so fast-paced with lots of tension as the Doctor and Martha try to save the crew of the ship and themselves. It definitely has no wasted scenes. I love that when the Doctor arrives, he virtually takes over straight away, even though he's at first unaware of what's really going on. But for me, the highlight of the episode is Martha's escape pod scenes, which are so well acted. I totally agree, Paul. Those shots of her and the Doctor separated but staring at each other are just brilliant. I see what you did there, Paul. And the choice to do it in silence with no music as the pod slowly moves away is a clever and impactful choice. I also love Martha and her belief that the Doctor will rescue her. That's a good point. We didn't bring that up. Which he lives up to by putting himself on the line to do so. I thought it was also interesting that this episode was done in real time, like a Who version of the show 24. And was the title of the story a sly reference to Douglas Adams? ? Well, of course it was.
Yes. And 24, as we've established.
And 24, I totally agree. And so anyway, I enjoyed rewatching this episode. I had forgot this was the episode where Martha gets her TARDIS key. Oh yeah, we forgot about that as well. And one of the shows to reference Saxon, which would obviously be important later. Can't wait to see what Chris Chibnall does later this year! ! Kindest regards as always, Paul. P.S. Okay, Charles and Jesse, which episode of Chibnall's are we watching next? ? Can't wait. This is fun.
Yay.
Yay. Thank you, Paul. I'm glad you're enjoying that. I'm glad you're having a good time. Hope everybody else is as well. So, Paul, since you once again set us up so nicely.
Yes.
Next time and next up everywhere, we are going to talk about The Hungry Earth / Cold Blood. Another Chris Chibnall story, his second for Doctor Who, this time in the Stephen Moffat era with Matt Smith, the 11th Doctor, during his first season in Series 5 in 2010. So this was the two-parter that reintroduced the Silurians to the modern era of Doctor Who. So obviously a big responsibility because it's one of the classic Doctor Who monsters. And I'm looking forward to talking about this one, Jesse, because it's a two-parter. So we kind of get a little taste of how he writes his two-parters here. And we get Matt Smith's Doctor this time. So it should be fun to see how Chris writes for another Doctor as well.
Yeah, I think that sounds awesome. If I remember correctly, I wasn't a fan of this episode very much when I watched it the first time. So I'm looking forward to seeing, in fresh eyes and kind of look at it. So this is excellent. This will be fun.
Yeah. How long has it been since you watched this episode?
This is an episode I've never rewatched.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just how long has it been since you watched it the first time?
I think
roughly.
Yeah, whenever it came on.
Oh, okay.
Originally.
So you watched it live. You watched it live back in 2010.
Yeah. So we're 7-8 years away. So
So I think it's time for a rewatch on this one.
I totally agree.
As we look through it with older eyes. Or more mature eyes, depending on. Although it's us, we're not really more mature, but at least I'm not.
Absolutely.
Because as the fourth Doctor said so eloquently, what's the point of being grown up if you can't act childish sometimes?
Absolutely. So Charles, any other feedback?
No, unfortunately, that's it. Believe it or not.
Okay.
Apparently, everybody else is like either off for the new year or everybody writes back in. But to do so, I recommend that you email us at nextstopeverywhere.smg@gmail.com. Don't forget the SMG. And otherwise, you can reach us on Facebook at our Facebook page, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Or you can reach us on Twitter, on the Twitter machine at Next Stop SMG on the Twitter machine. We would love to hear from you. Obviously, we could use some more feedback than just Paul. So hopefully everybody's had their good New Year break and are coming back. And hopefully you're enjoying the ride right along with us as we head into the Matt Smith era.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to seeing this. And you can reach me if you want to give me feedback at Jesse Jackson DFW on the Twitter machine. I am on Facebook as well, Jesse Jackson in Louisville, Texas. You can hear me on Set Lusting Bruce Bruce Springsteen podcast where we talk about music. I've got a couple of episodes coming up this year in the next week or so where we take a individual Springsteen album and rank the songs from worst to first.
Nice.
And yes, and there's a top secret project that a certain co-host and I are working on that we'll be talking about more in the weeks ahead.
Well, hopefully
we'll
be recording that tomorrow, the very first episode of that project.
Yes, we are.
So stay tuned, kids, because especially if you're a DC Comics fan, we'll have something special for you. So stay tuned.
I agree.
All right.
And Charles, how about you? How can they reach you?
Obviously, on the Twitter machine at Charles Skaggs, or on the Instagram at Charles Skaggs, or on Facebook at Charles Skaggs. Go figure. And then Google Plus for all you crazy kids on the Google Plus. Shout out to Karen. Then, of course, my blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee and hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff that we talk about here on Next Stop Everywhere, or Doctor Who, or my other two podcasts, the Phantom Zone podcast that I do with Karen Lindsay, where we talk about comic book shows on TV, or Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse, where we talk about all things Twin Peaks, oddly enough. And then, of course, we're going to have another podcast, but, we'll just hold off on that one for just a little bit longer.
Spoilers.
We're almost there. So stay tuned. But apart from that, I talk about all kinds of comic book and sci-fi goodness, kinds of casting news, movie news, what have you. And so please check out my blog, Damn Good Coffee and Hot. I would definitely appreciate it.
Nice.
All right. So... Oh, and I should mention also that if you would, please go to iTunes or rate Next Stop Everywhere. It helps people find us on iTunes. Just kind of, it helps iTunes, the algorithms notice us more if you do that. So, it kind of helps us grow the show. So if you want to help us, please, share links, what have you. We really appreciate it. We obviously want to keep growing Next Stop Everywhere, and we appreciate all your help in supporting the show.
Absolutely. So, Charles, in a timey-wimey, not planned, my quote to end is, for some people, small, beautiful events is what life is all about. That is from the Doctor, Earthshock.
Oh, well played. Now, did you just already have that in store?
I already had it planned. I marked in my book. And I was like...
You've been hanging out with me doing these podcasts way too long. You're in my brain.
Yes, I know. So, thank you, Charles. Thank you, listeners. We will talk to you soon.
Very nice. So, thanks again. We'll come on back for The Hungry Earth and Cold Blood. We'll be right here. Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Bye, everybody.